Good morning, Wisconsin. Shauna Suko here, and I could not be happier to be here with you virtually from Minnesota, your neighbor to the west. Really excited to talk today about the third wave and mostly how we're getting out of this third wave. So let me just start by saying, what do I mean by the third wave? What does that even mean? Well, there have been three waves that have hit our economy, but primarily our industry first and foremost in this century. The first one was 9/11. And whenever these things happen, our industry seems to be the first one hit and the last one to recover. So we've got 9/11, and that was the first wave that kind of crashed and smacked us all upside the head. And then the next one was, of course, the Great Recession of '09 and 10. And that was a doozy too. But now this is unprecedented. And by the way, if you have a beverage next to you, whenever I say an overused pandemic word or phrase, I hope that you'll drink with me. I've got water here in my Rick and Morty glass. So unprecedented is definitely one of those. So this third wave is like nothing we've ever seen as a world, and especially as an industry. This has just been crazy. So what is different about this one? This is what we need to understand so that we can market and sell differently while this is still going on and well into the recovery. So that's what we're here to talk about today. So there are four components to what's different about this one. And I'm going to just delve into each one of these briefly before I get to, okay, that's all well and good, but now what are the solutions, which is what we all really want, right? So we've got the culture shift, and we've got splintering, we've got Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I'm going to take you back to high school on that one. And then this dichotomy that's at play in our economics. So the culture shift, wow. This has been, so I study consumer behavior. I've been studying that for the past 10 years. I was, a planner for the first 20 years. I'm very, very young. No, I've been in this industry, quite a while. So I was a planner, corporate, association, independent. As the founder of SPIN, the Senior Planners Industry Network, I've got 2,500 senior level meeting and event planners that I can be a fly on the wall and listen into what they're thinking and feeling about the B2B side of things. And I'm also going to cover tourism as well in both of my sessions, this one and my breakout session on how to be more memorable. So this culture shift that we've been going through is like nothing that we've ever seen in such a short amount of time. As consumers, we all have changed how we buy, how we've been traveling, how we've been working, all of this stuff. So we don't work like we used to work, which means that we notice things differently while we're at work. We notice things at home because, as this picture shows, we maybe had kids at home through all of this. I was grateful to have my daughter home from college. My son is in high school, so I had both of them around while I was trying to work. My son is here now, and I've got a bonus kid living in my basement that, so we all have to work around life differently and try to integrate life with work. The way we shop, the way we've been to bars and restaurants throughout all of this, the way we purchase groceries has changed. And I don't think these things are going to go back to normal. So there is no going back to normal for this. If you notice, the way we talk to each other has changed. We are all far, far, far more casual. We've been through this collective, this shared human experience, what I call the meat grinder. We've been through this craziness, and it's brought us all to a more casual, more human place where if you are, say you're talking to a customer, you're most likely, especially a year ago, talking about their family. How are you? Are you safe? Do you have enough toilet paper? I joke, but we actually we started off conversations differently, and we got to a deeper, more human level more quickly. And I love that. That's one of the very few highlights about this, is it has changed our culture for the better, which means it's changed how we, in that regard, and it means how we sell and market has to change, because our customers, like ourselves, we're in a very different place than we were a year ago before all this. The way we dress, How many of you in the chat, how many of you are wearing real pants right now with a button and a zipper? Yeah, I've got what I call my COVID mullet outfit on. So I'm business on the top and I'm leisure on the bottom. So, you know, how we do everything has changed. And our level of professionalism as a society has definitely decreased. And that is not going to go back to the way that it was. So this means that how we sell and market is going to be less professional. Is it going to be unprofessional? No, it's just going to be more casual. How we talk, the people we use in our advertising, all of this is going to change as it needs to because our audience is different. Let me show you this beautiful ad that's been playing on TV.
An important decision is afoot. This man is about to buy tires on TireRack.com. Tire Rack is the leading online retailer of tires in North America and a repository of advice and expert reviews. And it's done! All that's left is to arrange for safe, easy installation at one of our independent recommended installers. Well, I guess he did that too. TireRack.com, the way tire buying should be.
How cool is that ad? It's so reflective of kind of how we all feel. And especially toward the beginning of the pandemic, man, this guy is not a model. He's not a perfect human specimen. He's wearing sweatpants. He's got the scruffy beard and the bed head, and he's got a bowl of snacks in front of him, which you don't usually see in a commercial unless it's about food or about the big game. He scratches his beard and he's in his socks. You see his socks and his feet. And he just does his thing and then he's chilling on the couch. This really stood out to me amidst all the noise of the other advertisers that were still doing it the old way and still treating life as normal, as the old normal, and still showing people at gatherings and things as we moved through this pandemic. And so these guys just nailed this culture shift that has been underway and will continue. So now, the next thing that's at play that is different about this wave is this splintering of humanity, if you will. So what I mean by splintering is our culture is further changed by all sorts of splinter groups that have formed during the last year, certainly during the last 4 or 5 years. There are splinter groups certainly by politics. There are splinter groups by geography. Where you live, your governor has handled, I'm not going to get into politics specifically, but your governor has handled the pandemic differently from where I live. Whether I agree with that or not, we could be in different splinter groups just because of our experience through this. Your splinter group, you can also splinter based on your health. Are you in a high risk group? Maybe you've been extremely conservative throughout this. Maybe you're in a low risk group, like my college kid who, life hasn't changed much for her. And there are still parties and there's still life, except for not in the classroom, which she actually misses, strangely. But different splinter groups by your age, all of these things are a factor now, and we are very different. It is going to be harder than ever to have a one-size-fits-all message in your marketing and in your selling. So we have to get in the heads more and more of our target audience and figure out what splinter groups are they in. So if, for example, you are marketing your venue, let's say, or your entertainment complex to Minnesota, it's going to necessarily be a pretty different ad than what you are marketing to locals in Wisconsin. And urban versus rural is going to be different. So it's going to be a bit of a challenge, but if we do this right, it's going to be far, far, far more effective because people are going to feel like you get them and you understand them. Now, when it comes to understanding them, well, I'm going to take you back to high school, like I said, or maybe you took a college psychology course where you learned about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So let me know in the chat who remembers this. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs basically is this graphic of human behavior from the very basic at the bottom in the red all the way through these different stages of human behavior to human self-actualization at the top. I am the ultimate human. I'm everything that I want to be. So at the bottom is the red zone. This is where we are so freaked out by whatever our situation that we're in that we need our basic human needs met and nothing else. This is where we all went for the lockdown, the first kind of 2 weeks of craziness, whether you were locked down or not, whether you were an essential worker or not. Here in Minnesota, we were all locked down, and there was fear. There was genuine fear about this. So we sunk down to the red zone. We were circling the wagons around our family. We were making sure that our older family members were in a safe place. We were concerned about food. You saw the shelves emptying. You saw toilet paper and paper products emptying the shelves. That was exactly a reflection of this. And then once we started to get settled, depending on your splinter groups, we moved a little bit into the orange where, okay, we have our basic needs met. Now we can focus more on safety. For example, like if you're homeless and you don't even have home stability or food stability, safety is second to those two things. So for the majority of us, if we had that type of security, we moved up into the orange where, okay, maybe we start to feel a little bit more safe. And then we move up into the yellow, which is where live events happen. It's where people start to crave human interaction. It's where people start to go back to restaurants and social venues and seek out entertainment again, movie theaters. So after that is where the green zone happens, where we really start spending money on things again. And depending on who you are, depending on where you live, depending on what you believe, depending on your health, depending on your family, you jump from any one of these phases by the hour, by the day, by the week. Your office may be at a different phase than you are personally. My husband has been at a different phase than I have been personally. He has gone to work. He's an essential worker. He's gone to work every day since then, up until a few weeks ago when he decided to go to Indianapolis for the very rare opportunity of going to the NCAA tournament where all the tournament games are in one city. So he's been gone for a couple of weeks with an Airbnb with his friends and has this amazing opportunity to be there enjoying all of this. And I have to admit, we're Iowa Hawkeye fans. I'm sorry. I hope you don't tune out, but we are in our family. In fact, my husband is a bit of an Iowa celebrity. He is Hawkeye Elvis, if you've ever, seen him at an Iowa game. So he's in his element there, even though they've dropped out fairly early, but I digress. So in your own household, you could be at different levels of this hierarchy. So you can bet that your prospects and your customers and your clients are at different levels of this as well. So how are you going to market to them? It all is a matter of where they're at, where their head is at, and also where their finances are at. Which brings me to this dichotomy. So we have experienced in our industry a huge dichotomy financially. This huge spectrum of where we all landed financially, depending on whether our venues were open or closed. As a professional speaker, my job has been speaking at live meetings. I have had to pivot. That's an overused word, right? I have had to pivot to do things like this. These are as close to my reality, of my preferred reality, as I can get right now until live meetings return. And I've got live meetings next month. Amen. so happy for that. I will be fully vaccinated and I'm very excited. So, but in the meantime, I've got two examples of this dichotomy right here. Our restaurants have taken a huge hit. For example, on the bottom, restaurant workers, restaurant owners. Um, it has been devastating for many of our friends in this industry who are in that business, in that sector. Whereas anything to do with the home, Sleep Number, a high-end, very expensive bed company, has had their best year ever in 2020 and is on track to have their another great year. So certain people have a ton of money and they want to spend it and they're dying to spend it. Other people, not so much. And sadly, our industry is in the not so much, many of us. So how do we, that's the end of the wave smacking us upside the head. Now, what can we do about it? So finally, there is light at the end of this really long, dark, horrible tunnel that we found ourselves in. And there's light. We're all emerging into spring. We're hooray for outdoor dining, hooray for outdoor concerts, hooray for most of the country getting vaccinated so that people feel safe to go into those crowds again, because we need tourism, we need hospitality. It's what we thrive on as people on this webinar, but certainly as humanity, we need to be social. So here are three things that we can do differently as we move through this, as we emerge from this, to market and sell better. And the first one is we have to connect better. We have to do better because our groups are splintering, and we've been through this meat grinder, but this fact that I'm showing you has been true for the past 5 years. 90% of our customers don't trust us if we come at them as a business. There are things that we can do about that to mitigate that. But if we come at them as an organization, as a company, as an official destination, all of that, there's this immediate distrust because they're feeling sold at. And consumers, especially after what we've been through, we want humanity, we want conversation, we want to feel part of it. So now more than ever, we have to humanize ourselves, our staff, our venues, our everything, our advertising, our marketing, in all forms. Our selling has to start from a point of a shared humanity more than ever, rather than, okay, we're back to normal. We're back to, instead of unprecedented times, that's a hope, right? We are back to precedented times. I can't wait for precedented times, as my friend Julie says. But we have to humanize everything. And that means in your marketing, using the guy on the couch rather than the model. There are so many things that we can do to capture this better. And here are 6 things. I'm happy to share my slides after this, but here are 6 things that you can fall back on that for the most part are not going to offend the splinter groups because they are collectively shared. So while there's not necessarily a one-size-fits-all way to just blast things out at everybody, there are components that we can use. And certainly nostalgia, the good old days, remember way back when, I mean way back when, and I'll show you some examples of that. Pets, great equalizer throughout this, right? It's totally okay now. And it used to be where I would be so embarrassed if my dog barked. Oh my gosh, clutch my pearls. If my dog barked while I was doing something virtual or I was on a call with somebody. And now it's part of that culture shift where, oh, is that your dog? I've got mine sitting right here, or your cat walks across your screen. This is part of our new normal. So we can talk about optimism for the future, family, friends, all of these things, humor. We have needed to rely on our sense of humor to get through this, am I right? So those are some examples of how we can connect better through this. Now, when it comes to targeting all of these splinter groups, which splinter groups do your customers fall into? Now, some of you are fortunate and maybe you target a really obvious splinter group, like maybe your splinter group is 18-year-olds. Fabulous. They're all generally of a similar mind when it comes to the pandemic, as opposed to if your audience is 18 to 80. That's a little different. So we've got to figure out what's in their mind. And to give you an example of different splinter groups, now take a look at these pictures. What do you long for the most right now? We are each going to gravitate toward a different experience. In the upper left, we've got they're either friends or they're sisters, family, cousins, who knows, but that family and friends thing. Or upper right, that nostalgia or spending time with your kids out in nature. The bottom left, toes in the sand. And the bottom right, shopping. Go into the chat. What are you looking forward to? What are you longing for the most? This is, and by the way, I have to say, I've been lax. So Andrew is at the ready. If you have any questions so far, please go ahead and ask them in the Q&A. Andrew is prepared and instructed to interrupt me at any time if you have any questions or comments that you want to share. But we're all at a different place. We're all gravitating toward a different thing that we're longing for, depending on our splinter group, depending on whether you've been strictly online shopping because maybe you're in a high-risk group. You're longing for the day when you can go out and do some serious retail therapy, or maybe you want to get back to, maybe you have friends and family that you haven't seen. My in-laws, I have not seen them, and I am going to see them at the end of April, and I am beyond excited because I actually love my in-laws and cannot wait. So it's going to hit us differently. Here's another set. Now, which one of these are you longing for? Or maybe did you use as a way to survive through all this craziness? Wine, certainly at an all-time high. Sales are spiking. The upper right. Ooh, maybe that is like, oh, there's too many people and they're too close together. Or maybe you're like, I own a restaurant, or I can't wait for that to happen. So different things, different ways. Now, the bottom right and the bottom left, those are generally a one-size-fits-all kind of thing, the nostalgia of it and the pets. But let me show you this ad that seemed to nail every single splinter group. See what jumps out to you personally, depending on where you're at.
We've proven time and again our community rises with each challenge. Neighbors, businesses coming together to support one another and prove we're in this together. We've missed you experiencing our community, our heritage and history, our restaurants and breweries, festivals and arts, attractions and outdoor spaces. Macon Soul is intact and is part of who we are and what we do. Although we've just experienced a difficult time, we'll be here when you're ready to visit. We can't wait to be part of your next adventure.
Okay, that checked a lot of boxes depending on where you are at personally throughout all of this. There were groups doing things outdoors. There were people, doing things just in just a couple on a river. There was dining. There was the great verbiage of when you're ready. So they did a fantastic job of, hey, all this is here when you're ready. And they also acknowledged this shared human experience that we've been through. It's been a rough time, but we are here when you're ready. Beautiful. So you may be of two different minds. You may be of one mind personally for you and your family, but we need to get into the minds of our customers. What feels appropriate for them. So that's what we need to think about, because I can sink into what's appropriate for me, and discount what other people are thinking or feeling. And I have been on the more conservative side of this for health reasons. And so I haven't been as fortunate as my husband to go out and do a bunch of stuff. And when he comes back, he's gone out and done a lot of stuff, and we've had to quarantine away from each other because we're of different mindsets in our own house. So I have to acknowledge he doesn't feel the same way. And so go do the Final Four thing. This is a rare opportunity. So it can't just be about us. It has to be about them. And the third component of this is how we can't think outside the box anymore. That's an overused phrase, right? For years and years. We can't think outside the box. We have to throw the box away. Okay, that box is outdated. We can no longer rely on what's inside the box, what's outside the box. Get rid of the box. So let me ask you this. Thinking back to the Super Bowl, so we all noticed there was a lot of talk about which companies were noticeably absent from Super Bowl advertising. In the chat, who do you recall being noticeably absent from the Q&A? So Budweiser, Coca-Cola, Pepsi. Budweiser had advertised every year, one of the biggest advertisers at the Super Bowl, for 37 years. This was the first year that they bowed out of that. And what did they say? Beautifully, they said, we are going to repurpose our advertising money toward COVID awareness, COVID relief. And man, they got so much goodwill from that. However, brilliant move on the part of Budweiser, because they advertised all of their other brands, just not Budweiser specifically. And Budweiser had a hugely profitable year. Sales were way up because of the pandemic. So Budweiser had enough money to do both. They could absolutely donate to COVID relief and they could advertise, but by not doing so, they got more visibility. They got talked about in every major media outlet about what they weren't doing as opposed to what they were doing. So brilliant thinking way outside the box, throwing away the box and doing something entirely differently this year. So many people, if you ask them, why didn't Budweiser advertise? Why didn't Coca-Cola advertise? Oh my gosh, they're such a great, kind company. I bought Budweiser to watch the Super Bowl just because of that. We all know the truth. So throwing away that box. So we saw at the beginning of the pandemic, and maybe throughout the first several months or longer, depending on what splinter groups you're in, we saw, okay, we're going to pivot to do things virtually as best we can. And I was reading The Pandemic Pivot, I love that name, where Lakefront Brewery in Milwaukee did a fantastic job of this pivot where they built, go look at this, go look at all of those, they're fascinating. But just one example, they built hop houses at their facility, which are little greenhouses that people could reserve for 90 minutes with a special menu, and they could still go eat in this little greenhouse that had special lighting. And then after those are done being used, they're turning those into actual greenhouses to grow food for their restaurant operation. That's so cool. So we all had to do different things to survive. And some organizations, for example, I'm guessing that you've either hosted or participated in a virtual wine tasting. All right. So that was, okay, let's think outside the box. We're going to do a virtual wine tasting. I had never attended one of those before the pandemic. So that was a good outside the box. Now, throwing away the box, that became kind of normal. Like we've all been to that. Maybe you've been invited to several. And after, the first couple times, you're like, that's so cool. And then after a while, I've got my show to binge watch. I've got other things that I've just sunken into doing. And it has been so difficult if you have been the one trying to host things to get people to say yes to things. And people sign up for things. And if you get 50% of them who signed up to actually do the thing, you're in good shape. So it has been a difficult thing to get people to do anything virtually. And so I commend all of you. This speaks to how well this conference has been put together and the content that Dawn and her team has arranged today, and how much you are longing for connection that we are all here today. So ways that other people throughout this began to throw away the box. Now, this right here, I think I have it. So this is a group of meeting planners, and also throwing away the box. This person realized that quality was worth more to her than quantity. So she targeted a select group. There, you may even recognize some of these faces. These are all senior level meeting planners. And the money that is controlled by the people on this screen is in the millions and millions. And so the person in the upper right wanted to get help marketing her aromatherapy line for conferences, for both virtual experiences and when we return to live conferences. And so she approached Spin and said, I would love to do this for a select group. And I was so jazzed about this being something different that I was like, yeah, who's your ideal demographic? And I handpicked these people and invited them. She made this custom blend for the people on this Zoom based on what emotions they were going through. She sent out a survey and then she created this custom blend. So meeting planners, live meetings are dead. A lot of these meeting planners struggling to make ends meet. There was stress, there was worry, there was, all sorts of things. And so she created this blend, did a custom logo, sent it out with some chocolates and some calming tea in this great little package that cost her maybe $20, and got millions of dollars of potential business giving her this audience, and they loved it. And at the end, she also threw away the box, and instead of just being in presenter mode, she humanized herself and said, I would love now to turn this to you, turn the microphone to you and ask you, what advice would you give me to help me market this to people like you? The advice that she got, and everybody on this call was like, oh my gosh, let me introduce you to this person and that conference and this association. And people scattered to help her because she revealed her humanity, and they loved it. So this does not have to be anything expensive that you do. Continuing through this virtual will continue. Hybrid, everything will continue. People are used to it. This is part of our new normal, and we are going to expect it. So if you are a live venue, don't just turn the lights off on virtual, on that hybrid experience. You can still bring in more eyeballs, more money, more support, more visibility by keeping some sort of virtual something. And anybody in our industry can do something like this, a virtual component. I challenge you to present me with anyone on this call. If you think you can't, present me with a scenario and I will brainstorm with you. So a couple other ways that People have thrown away the box. Upper left-hand corner, this was at SpinCon, our annual conference for our senior level planners. We resurrected Bob Ross. God rest his soul. We resurrected Bob Ross, and we had a goat painting party with live goats virtually, and a Bob Ross impersonator showing us how to paint a goat from her, this is a her, from her kitchen. It was the best thing. We got more feedback than any of our sessions where we paid speakers to speak. More feedback on that session than anything else. People loved it because it was so different, and it cost us hardly anything. This is a friend of mine who is a professional speaker who's out of work, who put on a wig and did a beard, and she's an artist, and it was great. And people loved it. The bottom left, this is great if you have a venue, a restaurant, a bar, where we've seen like mixology sessions. There are ways to do that differently, and I'll get to that by pairing. In fact, join my breakout session. I've got great examples of that on how to be more memorable in your marketing. But any type of demo that is different. This is not different enough now. They would have to add something even more so, like a certain guest, or joining forces with an unusual partner company to do a pairing of some kind, something very different. The upper right, yes, that is a drag queen. It was Christmas time. We had adult themed, so it was rated PG-13 or maybe even a little R, drag queen pajama bingo with adult beverages at home, with a mixologist showing us how to make drinks, and this drag queen sang the songs that were Christmas carols instead of calling out numbers. So wrap your brain around that. That was throwing that box out the window and setting it on fire. And people loved it because it was appropriate for our audience. This may not be appropriate for yours. You have to get into the heads of your audience, as always, to see what they want, but you can push that envelope a little bit further and be a little bit less formal, less professional, not unprofessional, less professional. And man, we had a great turnout for that event. People are still talking about it in our shared conversation forum. Bottom right, this was a virtual visit to a Costa Rican coffee farm that is an eco-friendly coffee farm. It's got a charitable component. And in the middle of a meeting, we took the group to Costa Rica. And for 20 minutes, this guy gave us what I call a neurological palate cleanser. So these brain breaks that you build into regular everyday content, like I've used videos and I've told you stories. That's how I kind of chunk up this content that I'm delivering for you. Well, that gives everybody a brain break from something else. And it was great for that particular audience. So if you have a farm, or if you can partner with a farm, maybe you are have a venue where the chef uses locally sourced food and vegetables. Why not do a chef tasting both live and have people on camera, because those live tickets are so expensive and they're so hard to come by, and you've got this great kind of limited audience. Why not open it up to people at home so they can peek in? It's not the same as live, but they can still be a part of it. You can still bring in revenue and you can still expand your visibility. So think about continuing this kind of stuff even afterward. So for the immediate future, video email if you're selling business to business, or if you're doing business to consumer, if you have a newsletter of any kind, video experiences, video on your social media channels, using video ambassadors. I'll give you an example of that in my next session, but leveraging video because we've been at home and it has become our new normal to ingest video all day long. And so we are going to come to expect that more than we even were before the pandemic. Before the pandemic, YouTube was the second most utilized search engine after Google. So we were already a very video dominant society. We're not going back to even, we're not backpedaling. So how are you going to leverage video to capture all the cool things you're doing and continue to share those in new and different ways to your at-home audience? This goes beyond just plain email. This goes beyond plain newsletters. We are wanting to see and hear and taste through the screen, to feel, to incorporate all 5 senses as much as we can as consumers. So give us that experience to be more memorable. Let me show you this. This is a great example of a video ambassador who is just a dude. I don't know whether he's a vlogger or not, or why he did this, but take a look at this. He's in Thailand.
Yo guys, I'm here in front of Terminal 21 in Bangkok, and I'm going to be asking foreigners why they came to Thailand. What attracted you guys to come to Thailand?
Maybe we need to stop posing.
The food, I think.
The food?
Food,
Yeah.
good places to go out, good places to party.
Cheap shopping.
Cool. And how long are you guys here for?
Couple of weeks
A couple of weeks, right on. And where are you guys from?
from India.
Awesome, right on. What has brought you guys to Thailand?
The excellent food and friendly people.
Excellent food, friendly people. So,
The weather's always nice here, so
weather's always nice. Where are you guys from?
I'm from Mexico.
I'm from Canada.
Oh, Mexico. Okay, Mexico's not so bad for the
No.
heat, but I'm from Canada as well, so yeah, I can relate. Cool, guys. And what were your first impressions of Thailand when you got here?
It was beautiful and everybody was very friendly.
Definitely. And where have you guys been other than we're in Bangkok now? Have you been anywhere else?
Kanchanaburi.
Oh, Kanchanaburi, nice. Excuse me, sir. How long have you been in Thailand for? Pretty long.
I'll cut it off there, but you get the idea. And things of note, there is not a professional camera crew. It's not necessary. It's more accessible. He's more accessible as a human being. It's more humanizing that he's a guy with his backpack straps. He's holding the microphone and he's just stopping people on walking around the airport terminal. So are you trying to convince your target audience that things are picking up again, that people are coming to your destination, people are coming to your hotel, people are coming back? Why not have one of your current customers, one of your current ambassadors, like a top customer, or if you are part of an association, somebody who really believes in, who's a real cheerleader of whatever it is that you represent, getting them to do this, or a staff person, or the CEO, whoever is going to be most comfortable doing this, to get them to just go out and film, video, even stream it live, but repurposing these on all your social media channels, sending this out in your newsletter, rethinking all of this. Just a regular guy showing the regular people at the airport in Bangkok. And that he got people to rave about that destination who aren't paid. They paid no advertising money. The Bangkok Convention and Visitors Bureau paid no money for that. As far as I know, they may have incentivized this vlogger, who knows, but you don't have to. This is stuff that is easily accessible to generate excitement again for the return, because there are some people who are lower down on Maslow's hierarchy that are going to need a little ongoing nudge to come back to see you or to come for the first time. So think about video ambassadors. So what's next? Well, home officing is going to be here to stay, at least partially. Your customers, especially if you're selling business to business, your customers may not return to an office full time. They may not return to an office ever. You're going to have to rethink how you meet them to have have a meeting with them or show them your latest widget, or, coffee shops are, I would buy stock in Starbucks, because coffee shops are the new office, even more so than ever before. Coffee shops are the new office. Home officing is going to be here to stay, even if people go a couple days a week, which means downtown real estate is going to change. If you're located in a downtown area, beware. Downtown real estate is going to go through a major upheaval if you have a lot of office space there. Keeping it casual in how you talk, in your sales pitches, in your marketing, in everything, in your newsletters, keeping it casual in, the formality of the three-piece suit. When was the last time any person on here wore something like that? It's probably been a while. And, man, maybe the first live conference I go back to, I will dress up, but I'm going to settle back into, being more casual after that. Cautious spending is for now. We're coming out of this. There are more job prospects. People are getting off of unemployment. They're craving going someplace, leaving their little bubble they've been in, even if it's the bubble of their home or the bubble of their neighborhood or their hometown. We want to go again. I cannot wait to get on an airplane and go as far away from Minnesota as I possibly can, which may be Thailand after seeing that. I cannot wait. And I am willing to spend money on that. Even though my business has taken a hit, man, that's going to be one of my priorities. We need to meet in groups again. So this bodes well for our industry. It is going to be a wonderful spring, not just literally, but figuratively, this coming out of this dark place. So that is beautifully what is next for us. But most importantly, the Roaring 20s. So excited for this, because if you think back to the 1920s, they had been through this horrible time. They were through a pandemic, they were through a war, and then the Roaring 20s happened, and it was just a decade-long party. We don't want to talk about the end, what happened in 1929. Don't focus on that. Focus on the fact that wonderful things are coming back for our industry, and it is going to be a wonderful summer and even better fall. Great winter, and 2022 is going to be even better. So isn't it good to have hope again? So I will say to you, of all of those things, I just threw a lot at you in 50 minutes. And as I wrap up here, I will stay on for anybody that has questions. You are going to have to get out of this session and go back to that virtual lobby. You'll have a 10-minute break before you go to the next session, but pick one thing that you're going to do differently. If you do one thing differently from every session that you go to today, I know Dawn and her team will be so happy with that, and I would be thrilled with that. And I would love to know what it is that you are going to try differently. Thank you so much for letting me be your opening keynote speaker this morning. And I look forward to seeing those of you in my breakout session on how to be more memorable in your marketing. Thanks. Andrew, do I have any questions? And guys, go ahead and ask me questions in the Q&A.
We do not have any questions teed up right now, and if everybody's shy at this point, please join us at 11 o'clock with Shauna and myself. I'll be back, and you can ask all the questions you want during our breakout session as well.
And thanks for the grade. I'm seeing now the discussion forum that I wasn't able to participate in while I was blabbing, but I see that there are people here that Nikki says, I wear a suit at home just to feel normal, waiting to hang out in person with friends. Can't wait for live music, vacation. Yes, live music. Can't wait to be with friends and family. Full on hugging of my grandkids. Yes, Roxanne. Oh my gosh, I miss human connection and just touching my, my in-laws. I can't wait to hug my mother-in-law. How many of you can say that? Thank you guys again. I will see you at my next session, and have a great conference.